You are watching and listening to Chris and Leicester Till I Die TV on YouTube and your favourite podcasts.
Right, Chris.
Oi, hang on a second. It's one of those nights tonight. I'm here. Hello. Good evening. How are you? Welcome along. Yes, indeed. We are talking Gareth Southgate, as well as Southgate South, whatever he's called. What's he called? He's bored me so much that I don't even know his name. We are looking at not the Euro review. That's tomorrow night at 7 o'clock. Some people, not naming names, Brad, but some people may have gone into the wrong room. And can I just say, if you did go into the wrong room, it wasn't the green door, because if you went into the room with the green door, of course, you would have found Shaking Stevens. Thank you. I'm here all night. But look, for those of you that know and have followed me for a while, I've always tried to defend Gareth Southgate. I think his record as England manager hasn't been the worst. And we'll come on to all that sort of facts and figures later. But even I am saying, surely now the time is right. He's got to go, has he not? Surely, you know, he's 10 years up at the end of this tournament. I'm not saying get rid of him in the middle of a tournament, although some teams do. But surely it's time for fresh ideas. You know, I'm wondering, should there be a limit on how long managers are in the job for? Don't know. I just watching these 3 games. We're not the worst. We've qualified. France are just as bad as us, and again, we'll come on to that a bit later. Surely, though, we need a successor. Gareth, I'll get this right before the end of the show. Gareth Southgate. We need a successor. Time for him to go. I really honestly think so. And we'll see if my guest tonight agrees to me. I think he's come out of the room with the green door. He's now come into the room with the blue door, which is, of course, is the Leicester door. It's Brad. We'll bring him in straight in after this. Who's that sitting behind the green door? Brad, how are you?
I'm all right. I blame the world. I blame the world. I really do.
Oh, let's blame Southgate. Why not?
Yeah. No. I'm going to do a Leicester thing. It's all Rudkin's fault.
No, it was somebody's fault. He sent you down the wrong alley, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. He did.
Look, Brad, this isn't a review of the group stages. It's a review of England and whether we have got the right man at the helm. And you know, I've always stood up for Gareth Southgate. I've tried to defend him. You know, I've said when you look at his record compared to others, His is certainly not the worst. It's one of the best. But this has just been dire, hasn't it?
It has. And there was a brief moment before the Slovenia game where we kind of knew the circumstances to a degree. And again, England have probably pulled the leprechaun out their arse because he's not at the Euros, is he? But they've pulled him out their arse because of how other things have happened, that they've got Slovakia and not someone a bit tougher for topping the group. But there was the little shred of hope, wasn't there? You thought, okay, 2 games have been a bit boring, but it's 4 points out of 6. We'll go and win the next game. We'll win it in style. Everybody will forget about boring Southgate because it was just cautious football, get us through the group, job done. Hello. Because we knew that they needed to draw. Drawing for them qualified them. By some manner, it qualified them to the group, to the knockout rounds, right? So we, as fans, naively probably thought, well, you know what that means, don't you? That means they need a draw. That means 11 men behind the ball. And that means we're going to have the luxury of being able to pass through them, drag them around. And
Talk to me, Brad. Talk to me.
No, sorry, I just relived the game in my head for about 4.5 minutes, so I nearly fell asleep. Sorry. Oh, sorry. Yeah, sorry.
Was there that many highlights?
No, it wasn't. You know, I had a laugh with my dad because we obviously were watching it. We were all watching it outside. And I said, do you know what the most embarrassing thing is? Pickford's had 1 save to make, and it's only 1 less than Oblak's made.
Yes.
We made our keeper make 2 saves.
Yeah.
Against a team, Chris, that knew they were playing for a draw.
The guy I felt sorry for, I'm going to be honest with you, well, the 2 guys, one at the BBC and one at ITV, trying to actually get some highlights out of that game. But look, I mean, we started off against Serbia. That was a 1-0 win. And Serbia, look, anybody that's got through to the finals isn't going to be a pushover. Even the likes of Albania. Well, all right. Everybody apart from Scotland that got through to those finals was never going to be a pushover. But in fairness, even Albania topped the qualifying group. So, they're there on merit. We are not the England of 1950s when we were up here and everybody else was down here. It's very much an even playing field now, isn't it? But we started off not too bad against Serbia. But could another manager get a better tune out of these players, I guess is the question I'm asking.
Yeah, lots of them. Lots and lots of them. And I tell you which manager it would be. Any manager that's had any form of success as an international manager. Because I am sick of 1 or 2 qualifications needed to be an England manager. And that is, A, you've got to be a yes man. And B, you've never managed on the international circuit. Because every time we seem to have a manager that has managed on an international circuit before has either been very strange and regimented. We all know Capello. And I believe Sven might have managed a country or 2 before us, hasn't he? And he didn't do too bad as an England manager, if you think about some of the results he got. But every other manager in between them has never managed international football, has waited for the opportunity just to manage England. And this is the biggest problem with today's football, Chris. And this is a problem, and someone's already mentioned him here, so I'm going to bring more Penzo, right? What is it about us as an England manager that he thinks, how did Manchester City win the league? They passed the ball around, the opponents dragged the oppositions out, and that's how they won the league with quality players. You can do that when your team's 10 times better than anybody else in that division, or a lot better than most teams in that division. You can do that in league football. Do you want to know what the German manager, the Spanish manager, and the Italian managers all do? I'll tell you what they'll do, Chris. I know it's rhetorical. I'll answer it for you. All right? Yeah. What they do is they go, I don't care if you play in the Italian league like that. I don't care if you play in the Spanish league like that. I don't care if you play in the English, Spanish, German, French, whatever league you play in and how your team plays football. When we play international football, I've got 25 players from 7 or 8 different teams that all play different styles of football. when you come to represent your international team, we're going to figure out a way that benefits you all, not a system that won their league. The league, you know what I mean? What one Man City league? You can't do that with this squad, and that's what he's doing.
I mean, I said the other day, I can't remember who it was to, but the England manager's job should, or any international team's manager's job, should be the easiest job in that country when it comes to football, because you have got, let's say 40 of the best players available to you. And what you need to do, and we can all argue, okay, I mean, I would have taken Grealish and, somebody else might have taken Maddison. There's all those arguments. We're not going to please everybody because everybody, it follows football, is an England fan in England. And therefore, we've all got our own choices. But let's say I take over from Southgate as manager, and I probably couldn't do a lot worse if I'm honest with you, I would say, right, this is my formation. Whether that's 3-5-2, 4-4-2, which hasn't done bad at this year's Euros, 5-3-2, whatever it is, this is my formation. Right. What players can I take that fit into that formation? Now, Foden plays in this role for his club. Therefore, I'm going to play him in that role for England. And you know what? I don't actually have to teach him an awful lot about tactics and what to do because he knows what to do. Square pegs, Brad, in square holes. Is that not simple?
Sounds it, doesn't it? And it's amazing how easy it all sounds. And it probably should be that simple, Chris. Like you say, if you have a tactic in mind and you have a style of play in mind, then you have players in mind that all right, okay, internationally wise, you're limited to a degree because obviously you can't go out and sign an Erling Haaland to go and play for England, but you can make the most of the team you've got. And one of the most alarming and most embarrassing statements that I'm sure you all heard from Southgate during this tournament was the reason I'm putting Trent Alexander-Arnold in midfield is because I don't have a natural replacement for Calvin Phillips. I don't know what's more embarrassing: his obvious love interest and whatever he's got with Calvin Phillips, who's played about 6 minutes of football since he signed for Man City, or the fact that you turn around and say, "Oh, the man I haven't picked for this tournament or the tournament before, I haven't got a natural replacement for." Here's an idea, Southgate: maybe don't play a system where you're required to do that. Yeah, but no, again, wants to play the Man City way without realising he's an international manager. It's ridiculous.
And if he came out and said, I'm not taking Calvin Phillips, and like I say, these are all hypothetical questions, so don't sort of say when he's ill or anything like that. I'm not taking Calvin Phillips because he does not fit into my style of play. We would all go, well, all right, most of us would go, yeah, I get that. It's like Christensen at Leicester. We didn't play Christensen because he didn't fit into how Enzo wanted to play. So as good as we think Christian is, and I honestly think he's a really good player, no point keeping him if he's not going to fit into that style of play. I just don't know how simple these things can be and why they make it so difficult. But look, let me just go through some facts and figures for you. Not in defense of him, because I've got past defending him. I've been defending him, and I'm not going to say that his style of football is the best, but if that Serbia game had been the final and we'd won it 1-0, we wouldn't be giving a toss about how good or bad the tactics were or who was playing out of position. Let's be honest, we'd have won the competition, we'd have been happy. But I can't, as I say, I can't just defend his history or his style anymore. I don't know how I mean, it is quite small, so but I will go through this. This is the longest serving national England managers in as per matches played. Winterbottom, 139 games. That was from 1946 to 1962. He wasn't even a manager then. It was him that said to the FA, you need to have one person that runs it and is in control of everything. Ramsey, 113. Southgate said 98 games to try and get this right. That's longer than Robson, Ericsson, Hodgson somehow managed to get 56. I don't know how, but there we go. He did follow Capello, so I suppose it was a case of things couldn't get any worse. And you probably don't remember him because you're much too young, Ron Greenwood. And the reason I put the little star next to Ron Greenwood, that was Spain 82 when Bobby Robson scored after about 5 seconds against France. The reason I put a little star there is the interesting thing is that was the Brian Clough era. That is when everybody wanted Brian Clough to be England manager, and the FA went, no, we've got this guy, Ron Greenwood. He used to manage West Ham. He's very, he's very, very good. He's one thing with West Ham, but do you know what? He's not going to cause any trouble. So we'll give him the job. Wasn't the worst, didn't win us anything, but who knows what might have happened if we'd got Brian Clough there. Most successful. Now, this is interesting. Capello has got the best win rate of any England manager. Can you believe that?
Well, I mean, this is where I'm going to kind of throw the stat book at you out the window.
I know you. I've been waiting.
Probably the reason his success is his win rate is so good is because he bore the pants off us. Was it in 2010 when we lost one, drew two, and went out in South Africa 2010? Was it or something like that? We had such a dismal tournament. He didn't have enough time to lose many games, did he? So But again, you look at the rest of them around him. I mean, you're also talking about. I mean, the fact that the Wally with the Brollies on there is hilarious, but also. Look at the teams we've played, Chris. And I know we say this every time, but he's played a lot more friendlies than other managers did in their areas, and he didn't. And they weren't playing Wally teams, were they? Every week in, week out, and every other bloody show fucking Tuesday. Because why not put an international game on?
Yeah,
when it don't mean no.
And in fairness, again, I've got Ramsey starred there, because. When Alf Ramsey was in charge, and this actually shot my own stat down because I was going to say, well, when Ramsey and Winterbottom were in charge, we were one of the best teams in the world. We were head and shoulders in the 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s. England were one of the best teams in the world. We're no longer that, if we're honest. So, other teams have caught us up, but then Capello gets in there at 67% nearly. But like you say, you do have to look at the games and the teams that they are playing. It's like, well, he got us to the competition where, Ramsey didn't get us to a European final, 2 European finals or whatever it was. And somebody else didn't get us to a final. Well, that's fine, but you can't not get. It's that easy to get to the finals now with the teams that you play. If you don't get out of those groups, then give the job to you and me, Brad, because, that's how bad they are. And this is Southgate's record. Again, not as good as I seem to remember in my own mind. A World Cup semi-final in 2018. A Nations League third place on penalties, I believe it was, against Switzerland, of all teams, 18-19. Nations League, 9th place. Wow. Euro 2020 runners-up. 2022-23 Nations League 15th, quarterfinals and 6th place at the last World Cup. And of course, we've just qualified. We don't know how far we're going to go in this World Cup. Does anybody really give a shit about the Nations League?
No, they just tried to be. It's such a poor way to try and glorify friendly. So I don't care for his Nation League stats. No. It's probably a good job we don't because we've been atrocious in it. The thing is, right, Southgate will be in Delulu land when he retires after this tournament and probably gets offered another job somehow in normal football. I say normal football because I don't think he'll get ever offered another international job. But because he'll sit there and go, well, I got him to a semi-final, I got him to a final. And again, it's not how far he got us. It's how did we were almost lucky to a degree. And I'm one of them. You can only beat who's in front of you, and I get that. We did beat some teams. God, you'd expect us to beat them 9 times, if not 10 times out of 10. Some of the oppositions we took on in the group stage. I mean, that Panama side, we could be playing against them now, and they probably still wouldn't have scored. But the point stands, Chris, is he's been frustratingly successful in that thing, and that's what's allowed him to have this international stint as long as he did. Because had he got quarter-final, then I don't think he'd be managing this tournament. I think a certain Mr. I don't know if I want to manage football teams again. I'm waiting for a job. Potter would be in charge for this tournament.
That sounded like Zippy off Rainbow then.
Did it? It was supposed to.
Yeah.
But you know what I mean? Like, I don't think he would have. It's the fact that he's got there. You can't say that he's not been deemed successful in the eyes of the FA and who appoint them, because they'll say, well, you lot might not like it, but he's getting us to tournament semis and tournament finals, and and again, this is the weird thing. We could literally bore to death our opponents and somehow stumble into the European Cup, the Euros final, and that would just be like, you know what I mean? It blows my mind.
I mean, we're in the bottom half of the draw now. We could meet Italy if Italy win their Group 16 game, Stage 16, whatever they call it, game. We've obviously beaten them twice already. I think it was. We beat them twice, didn't we, in the group stages when we were qualifying. All the other big guns are in the other half. If Belgium are up against France now. Am I being, when I'm saying now, look, this is really bad. Southgate's got to go at the end of the tournament. I'm fed up with standing up for him. And when you look at France, they only did exactly the same as us: 1-1, drew 2.
Yeah, but you look at their group in comparison, they at least had an opponent in their group where you could have said, oh, that's going to be a tasty game. I think in the greatest respect to our group, we should have beat Serbia. Not to say, no, I'm not saying like walk all over Serbia by any means. They've got some strong players in that team, but we should have beaten Slovenia. And by the way, folks, I'm going to get Slovenia and Slovakia mixed up, so bear with me. And then you could have maybe said draw with Denmark, who were the strongest team you'd say on paper were in our group. So it just doesn't help. And again, if it gets us to the final and wins or something, we're going to be saying 4 more years Gareth Southgate. But also, it's just how uninspiring it is. I remember the boos when we drew 0-0 with was it Algeria when Rooney and that was there, and that was dull. I remember the horrendous performance and subsequent still defeat to Iceland under Roy Hodgson because his genius was. And my worry is, Chris, it's kind of a bit like Brendan Rodgers. This could all still end sour for Southgate because he's had 2 what he'll deem as successes, semi-final and final. But if we play boring, and let's call it what it is, polish a turd, it's still a turd. But if we play boring football, defensive football, and then go and get knocked out in 90 minutes extra time or penalties, whatever, by Slovakia, it's going to end horrendously for him. He's not going to be able to go back to England before pitchforks and bricks and all sorts will be on the plane waiting for him to come off, because it's just not acceptable.
Yeah, I mean, Andrew says here, true, Chris, but who would you put £100 on to win it, France or England? Well, we're both joint favourites, I believe, at the moment. But France couldn't even finish top of the group. They finished second to Austria, who this is their first championship in God knows how many years. But that said, I haven't seen enough of France to say how they actually performed. I just think, I mean, I was talking to Craig from up the Cherries and All Departments. What was they talking to? I did manage to get a word in. But he was saying that this is our golden generation. Now, I particularly argued with him and said, well, we had that under Sven. That was a golden generation. But with Sven, we got to 2 quarterfinals and went out on penalties. We're it's almost like watching Brendan because, like when we lost to Croatia, we were 1-0 up. And it's almost like we sit back. And that's almost what we got with Brendan, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. It was almost like a defeatist attitude because he started to go on and on and on about how the club was punching above his weight, and he seemed to make us play that way as if go, no, we need to stay in our lane, and well, we all know the outcome of it. And that's again, it's not, you don't obviously have relegations or anything like that in international football. And again, you say France as well. We're not the only nation that's disappointing in terms of performances, lack of effort on the pitch. I mean, at least, like you said, at least we topped our group. You could argue it's about the only saving grace for him, but Belgium have had a rough ride of things. Portugal had the shock last night. Well done to Georgia. I mean, a few stars on your badge and wear the same sort of kit, and you do better than us. I mean, fair play, But it's just the manner of it, and you can just see it eventually. Like I said, we had a bit of luck when he's played this way because the final against Italy, what did we do? We scored and went defensive for 80 odd minutes, and it backfired on us.
Yeah.
So for me, you just sense we're going to have an Iceland moment. We're going to have a Croatian qualifiers, like Wally and the Brawley moment, where it just goes wrong. And it's not good enough. We have a bad performance, we get knocked out, and then the FA go, oh, well, your contract was coming to end anyway, so we'll just let you go. And then, next applicant with a yes man sticker, come in, please, because that's just how it goes for England managers.
Apparently, like we say, his contract runs out after this tournament. He has hinted that he won't be signing a new one. I think he's covering his back there, to be honest with you. The FA have not put any, allegedly, according to the newspapers, have not put any. I'm just going to see if I can find it. Actually, they've put no conditions on this tournament, as in, right, we need to be at least a quarter final. There's no target. That's the word I was looking for. They haven't set a target. Surely, before you go into these tournaments, you set the team a target. It's like Steve Cooper. He will be going to Leicester. Our target is to stay in this division.
Yeah.
Claudio, he had more than one target. Our target is better than last season. Our target is Europe at Champions League. And then we'll look at the title. You don't go into a major tournament like this and say, well, we're not going to set any targets, do you?
You do and you don't, because it's almost like, I mean, I said before this tournament started and people started getting a little bit excited because he didn't take his love child, Henderson. He wasn't taking Maguire. Okay, Maguire was injured. You could say that was the reason. He wasn't taking the 60-minute man, Calvin Phillips. He was not taking Grealish, and it was like, oh. And I said, well, it's boom or bust. The reason they've not set any objectives, Chris, for me is because, with the greatest respect, yes, obviously they want England to win it, but in terms of how they do, they don't care because the outcome's the same. He's either going to die a hero or die a villain. You know what I mean? Because he's either going to become public enemy number one and hated and everybody's going to be singing in the praises when the tournament comes to an end and he's sacked and la-di-da-da, or he's going to somehow, everybody going, how the fucking hell has he done that? Yeah. Oh, it's this boring waistcoat. They'd won us the Euros. And that's literally it. It's boom or bust for Southgate. He knows it. They know it. So that's what it is.
It was actually on Sky. And this was on the eve of the European Championship, which England go into as one of the favourites to lift the trophy. FA Chief Executive Mark Bullingham fell short of saying he wants Southgate to stay on in the role beyond his current contract, which apparently it expires in December. The Football Association, it says here, has already a plan in place to find Gareth Southgate's successor, though it has not so far does not spoken to any possible candidate to replace him, and has not set specific targets for the England manager to achieve in order to keep his job. Now, like I say, for me, and I take on board totally what you're saying, but what does that say to the common and garden England fan when a team's going into a competition with no. So basically, if we'd come bottom of the group and no point, if we'd done a Scotland, England FA would have been fine with that. All right, Southgate wouldn't have got renewed, but I just honestly can't get my head round that we're going into that tournament with no target whatsoever.
The problem is England will forever be a top 4, 5 team favourite, depending on the tournament, because obviously there's more teams in the World Cup. But the thing is, I think it's also a little bit, I can't think of the word I want to say. It's kind of a bit unnecessary because the crowd, the expectation of the nation, I'm a poet and I didn't know it.
Yeah.
The expectation of the nation, though, is minimum semi-finals now. This group of players should be getting to a semi-final of a World Cup, of a Euros, bare minimum. And at some point, this group of players should be taking home a trophy, whether it's a second World Cup or a Euros. And this team's going to stay around for a while. You know, all right, Kane and maybe one or two others won't. But the rest of the squad, the majority of that team is at an age where for the next 2, 3, maybe 4 tournaments, maybe not 4, 2 or 3 tournaments at least, they're going to be the predominant, players that are there, providing they don't get injured or they don't have drop off the face of the earth. The majority of that starting 11 you're seeing now, of 15, 16 players, should I say, are probably going to be there. And at the end of the day, if they'd have come out and said, all right, Southgate, minimum we want you to get is semi-finals, like you said, Chris, then the expectancy just is already on them. And maybe it was just a little case of saying, look, your contract comes to an end, so whilst we'd like you to win it, it doesn't really matter where you finish because you're probably going to walk out on us anyway if what Southgate's saying is true. So, this is his last tournament. So why put an expectation on it? They know the expectation. The nation expects them, like I said, bare minimum semi-finals. And even if that means we've got to scrape through and watch paint dry by the looks of things, if he gets to a semi-final, I would say they might not say it, but that's what the FA will want from him. To really push him on to be kept on.
I think they should have come out and said it. Evening, Chris and Brad. Breaking news: England footballers won't be voting. They can't find the box, let alone put a cross in it. Like it, great. Like it. Okay, let's say somehow we get to the final. Let's say somehow we get to, we win it, whether it's 1-0 or a penalty shootout. Getting to the final or winning it. Even then, I don't want this guy in charge of England for the next World Cup.
No, I wouldn't, and it sounds crazy saying that because, like you said, Chris, we need no matter what happens, we are going to need a manager that's going to get the best out of this squad for the remainder of its time. Like I said, for the next 2 to 3 tournaments. We're going to have this squad, and I don't, because the thing is, Chris, let's say we do win it. Only conceded 1 goal, only scored 2, but England somehow go undefeated and win it, right? I'd still be worried about the World Cup. I'd still be worried about us fumbling over the line at the World Cup. And again, to make the comparison, because a lot of you here are Leicester fans, I always say this, don't I, Chris? Despite what I said about him, I always say this. It's a what-if moment. What if Brendan Rodgers had, at the end of that FA Cup, in a press conference a day later or even on that day, said, look, this is something I'm so glad we achieved. The players already know this. But this is my final hurrah at Leicester. I'm so glad I've helped Leicester win a cup that's avoided them for 4 finals. We finally achieved it as a group. This was the goal. This is what we set our mind to. I'm going to stay to the end of the season. Obviously, we're going to try and get into Champions League, which would have been the case at the time. That's our end goal. But then after this season, I am stepping down because I feel like someone new needs to take over and takes his squad further. Brendan Rodgers may not have had the tarnish end that he had with Leicester. Gareth Southgate will want to do the same. He should, if let's put the hypothetical out there, he should say, "Oh, we deserve this. We came under criticism. I know the football style wasn't correct, and nobody really liked it. And I know we had our troubles, but we just so determined to finally win a tournament. And we've finally done it. And I think it's time now that someone else takes the reins and moves the squad forward." He just wants to do it.
Yeah, Craig's in from Up the Cherries in all departments. I've starred that comment, Craig. Welcome along. I know he's not Gareth's biggest fan, but I will come back to your actual comment and also yours as well, Gray. But a point I do want to make, which is something that Craig brought up the other day, and I mentioned earlier, the golden generation. Whether it's an age thing or not, I don't know, but is this the golden generation? I mean, I asked the question earlier, should the England manager be doing better with the group of players we have got? And all this sort of, and before, no, we'll kick this on the head before we even start. The fact that, there's so many foreign players in the Premier League, bollocks, that doesn't make any difference. It should improve the English players that are playing with them, we play too many games, bollocks, because so many of those players do play for other countries and they play in that league as well, but they're doing okay. So let's get that out of the way first of all. Is this a golden generation of players?
Not yet. And the reason I say not yet is because this generation is sort of actually already in its transition. You're talking about your Fodens, your Grealishes, even though he's not there, your Bellingham, who's only just come onto the scene, your Sakas, and yes, a few others, and they have had a tournament beforehand. But that England golden generation, right, didn't become a golden generation. You know which one I'm on about? The Beckham, the Scholes, the Lampard, Gerrard, the Ferdinand one, and the John Terry.
Sven's England, basically.
Yeah, it's Sven's England. Yeah. That was not a golden generation in 2000. It wasn't even a golden generation in 2002. It was starting to be a golden generation in 2002 because that's when it really started. The players started to play a bit more regularly, and be a part of it. But that golden generation didn't kick on till about 2004 to 2008, did it really? That's when that golden generation really seemed to star. And that, again, had likes of Rooney coming into it at that point.
Unfortunately, we had Capello then, didn't we?
Well, yeah. But my point is, it was a team that didn't really reach its peak of its powers until then players were at the prime of their careers. So we've still got Saka, Foden, Bellingham. Name me some more because I'm probably thinking of players that I'm missing that aren't in the team. Grealish is one. Maddison. Ollie Watkins, because Kane's not going to be there. I'm not even sure he'll do the next World Cup, let's be honest with you. So Kane's probably one that's dropping out of this so-called I think this is a generation in the making, Chris. I think you take your Kyle Walkers out of it, who won't be in the next World Cup, your Kanes that won't be in the next World Cup, and you take the core of that squad whose average age is in the early to mid-20s, and this now, from this point onward, this tournament onwards, Chris, is probably the benchmark of where they start to have that potential to become a golden generation.
I read somewhere, and I'm just trying to look for it, and I can't find it. We have got the league's top scorer from the Bundesliga. We've got the player of the season from La Liga. And there's a couple of other ones in there as well.
The English one.
Yeah, Foden and what have you. Yeah, we should be doing more with these players. Yes, we could argue, and it's very much perspective. When I spoke to Craig the other day, and he was saying that this was his golden generation, I was reading some of those players that were with Sven. Like you say, you had Ashley Cole, who was probably the best left back that England has ever had, in fairness. There were some great names. Owen, it was in there. Rooney there was some absolute amazing goals. And Heskey. I was getting to him, but no. But to me, that was the golden generation. But with those, I could just say, with those sort of players, any manager must be licking their lips and going, my God, look at this talent of players I've got before me.
Yeah, you think that, and again, you could look and compare at other nations that have their teams where they've probably got the top goal scorer from this division, they've got the most assist maker from this division, clean sheet goalkeeper from this division. Germany have probably abundance of talent. They had team of the season players, no doubt, or players of that caliber. But the thing, like I said at the very start of this, and I'll bring it up now, is we have and have had for a while managers that want to play to the style of the league that we play in. Southgate has pretty much looked at what works in the Premier League. Man City, how do they play football? Pass it round, pass it sideways, drag you out of position, do whatever, whatnot. And then all he does is he goes, oh, that's it. That's what we're going to do. We're going to play that system, that style, and we're going to play that way. And yes, we probably have enough quality and depth to forcibly play that way and grind out results. And grind out results is a stretch of the word for, what it has actually been, because it has been a grind. It's been a snooze fest at times as well, since his tenure. And the biggest problem is that will only get you so far, right? You look at, mistakes that were made in the past. You can look at maybe the Croatia side, the mistakes hanging on to players. That's different. We had that where we hung on to players and do it. But the biggest mistake an international manager makes is not looking at his squad and going, right, what's my core team? What's my core 11? What's my core 15 if you want to include the bench that I'm going to set up in that plays the best to this formation, this strategy, this way of playing? What is my best core 15 players to do that? And obviously you'll need to bring others to come in and replacement and, but if I get an injury, we're going to need to change things up. International managers do that. Like I said, the Germany manager wouldn't have given monkeys what bloody his striker was doing and how his striker was playing for his team and how his defender was being told to play by his manager. What he'll say is, you guys as a unit, collectively, after enough seeing you play and us having international friendlies and qualifiers, the way I get the best out of this 25-man squad as a unit is to play this formation this way. Okay, boss, no deal. That's fine. But you know what happens here, Chris, is we have players that go, oh, but I don't play like that. So pretty please, can we play to my strength? It's like, no, play to the team strength. And that's something
like I said before, though, it's about square pegs in square holes. And I keep coming back to that. I don't care if you look at it and say, well, yeah, Pep's won the Premier League because he plays this way, but I don't like that formation. Fine. Get your formation, stick with it, and put the players in those holes that are the right shape to fit in those holes. Don't think, well, I've got to play Foden because he was the player of the year, but doesn't fit into my system. Well, don't play him then, because suddenly you've got a player of the year that isn't a player of the year. I mean, again, something Craig said is, Bellingham, how was this exciting player turned into one of the most boring players? And in fairness, he hardly got a touch in the last game. How was he turned into that sort of player in the space of 3 games? I dare say it's because of Southgate.
Yeah, you're true. You're right, Chris. You're right. And it's not.
Who said? And I might be getting my team wrong here, but who said we are going to play 4-4-2?
Mike Bassett.
Do you know who else said it? I believe Wreck-It Ralph Ragnac, Austrian manager.
Yeah, very true.
They've played 4-4-2. I believe I read this somewhere, and they've just topped their group. They've topped their group that's got France in it. They've topped their group that's got Netherlands in it. I mean, we laughed at Ralph Ragnac when he was at, Wreck-It Ralph at Man United. But he's done better. I mean, I'm just looking here. I mean, I'm not usually a Guardian reader. You know me. I'm giving, give me the star and a page of boobs, and I'm happy. But on the Guardian, they've actually put the power teams, Euro 2024 power rankings, verdicts on the 24 teams after the group stage. My favourites for the tournament: Spain, number 1. You know where England are?
Number 3.
No.
Number 2. Ninth, yeah.
Above us, in 8th place, is Turkey. 7th is Georgia. Now, we've got a manager that has taken us down as being ranked under Georgia, for God's sake. I mean, I don't care what he does. I don't care if he, comes round here now and gives me a blowy, whatever. He does not get his contract renewed at the end of this. He's got to go, has he not?
He does. And again, it reiterates the same point about, his time coming to an end and kind of either going out a villain or going out a hero. He's got to move on regardless of whether we go on to win this competition or not, because I don't think anybody can deal with another 2 years of insufferable Southgate football. And I just don't think it's good for that group of lads to have that style of manager who is clearly stifling their style of play.
And confusing them, because they've had a whole season of being told this is how you play, to then being told but want to play this different in the tournament. I'm going to ask you this, and I may have put this to you the other day. I can't remember who it was, but should England managers have a maximum length of stay in the job? In the way, obviously, that US presidents do. US presidents can only have 2 terms, and then they're out. The party can have 3, 4, however many they win. But as the actual leader of the Republicans or the Democrats, as president, it's 2 terms, and that's it. You have to stand down. Should that not be done with the England manager's position?
That's a bit of a catch-22, because if you limit it, and then typically would be typical of England, they go and nail it right on the head with a manager, and all of a sudden they're saying, well, it don't matter if you win this tournament and the next 2 tournaments because we're going to oof you out because that's the rules. Then you start restricting any nation, don't you? Because it wouldn't just apply to England as well. I don't think it'd be fair on other nations who maybe are limited on managers that are interested.
No, but I'm just saying this is just for England.
You can't do that. You can't put that out there without putting it for anyone else.
Why?
I think. Well, because you can't have one rule for one international side and not for the other. They'd have to all abide by it. No, you can't.
Why can't you?
Because that would have to be an implemented rule that after a certain amount of time.
The FA have just got to say, right, we're going to give you a contract for 2 tournaments. Boom. That's it.
Well, if you're saying they do it if you're saying they're doing it without it being restricted, then the thing is with that is, again, the rule is not stable. Because let's say they say, okay, 2 tournaments, then boom, Bob's your uncle, we're moving you on no matter what. Let's say, and I'll say his name because he's 90% chance he's going to be the next England manager anyway. But let's say England go for Potter, and they go, okay, you've got preparation qualifiers, you've got the World Cup in the next Euros, and then whatever happens, and then he wins it. And he plays electric football, and all of a sudden England are the most exciting and most fearful side to play. Are you going to want to see him out, Chris? Because them's the rules that England made up just for themselves. Now, I'm not. I'm personally not. Not Potter. But you know what I mean? I'm just using it as an example.
No, I see 100% where you're coming from. My argument with that is yes, because it will freshen things up. Southgate got us to the finals of the last Euros. He's not going to get us to the finals of this one. But by what you're saying is that, well, we were right to keep him on because he got us to the last finals. Remember there's 2 years, apart from the Nations League, which is a piss pot of a trophy. It's the Papa John's pizzas, National League, 3 times removed, twice deceased equivalent, isn't it, for world football, European football? But
Well, I'll tell you what, then I'll try and I'll give you a compromise to your thing.
okay,
You know how you said earlier that England don't have a objective, if you will. Oh no, they do, but they haven't said you've got to get to a minimum quarter-final, semi-final of this tournament, right? What if there was a contractual agreement where in the contract it stated that, and I'm going to use his name for argument's sake, but
yeah.
Wizard Man Harry, Graham Potter.
You nearly said Harry Potter,
Yeah,
then, didn't
I
you?
did. Well, I kind of wanted to do both names in one, but it didn't work out. But anyway, you can only have a contract for 2 years. However, if you meet our expectations, or even rightly surpass our expectations, and England have to set good expectations. You can't say, "Oh, get past the group stage for it." I'm talking quarterfinal or above should be our expectations, let's face it. And he does that. Let's say he says semi-final, and then he gets to semi-final of the World Cup and wins the Euros. There is the option where if the FA and the player, the manager agree with it, they get a one tournament and one tournament only extension. It does not keep rolling on. It's just it's then up to the manager and the FA to say, "Hey, we said quarterfinals and semi-finals. You've only gone and really won the Euros, got to semi-finals of World Cup. We would like to offer you that one-time extension to do one more tournament. What do you say?" And then if he agrees to it, he agrees to it. If not, okay, fair enough. Next man in.
Yeah, no, again, I'm not saying that I think it should happen. I'm just
Yeah,
asking.
but I'm saying to back your hypothetical, I'd be more backing your hypothetical if there was a if there was a way to sort of go, okay, you know what, yeah, fairs.
Okay, let's have a look at who do you think is the most highly paid manager at the Euros?
Southgate.
Wasn't really a difficult one for you, was it? Really? Now, there's 24 managers there, so I'm not going to literally list all 24 managers' wages, but I want to show you the top 10, if you don't mind, and you can tell me whether you think any of these are actually worth this or not. And I'll just bring it up there. So as you can see there, we have Gareth Southgate, £5 million a year. Wow, seriously? Is he worth £5 million a year? Compare it to Nagelsmann from Germany and we'll get to everybody's questions in a minute. I'm going to round them up with questions. Nagelsmann on 4.8 million.
I think Nagelsmann's worth that.
Martinez at Portugal, 4.
No.
Didier Deschamps, with everything he's won for France, 3.2.
I think he's worth more than that.
I would easily swap him with Southgate and probably even have Southgate lower. There's a couple of these here. It just at the bottom. These are from the Daily Mail, by the way. So I haven't just sort of made these up, but they do make the point as well that they're not 100% on some of them, so the stars against it to cover themselves. Koeman, Netherlands, anywhere between 1.2 and 2.5. Now Spalletti, he's won the Euros for Italy. He's only on 2.5 million, and I know Italian football as a league is in trouble. The 850,000 is bonuses, by the way.
Yeah. I'd like to point out the Italian manager got knocked out by my obvious second nation, North Macedonia, in a qualifier small time.
Maybe he had to take a pay cut for that. I'll give you that one. I'd forgotten that. Wreck-It Ralph. I mean, even he is only on 1.5, and the Belgian on 1.3. I mean, what are we paying £5 million for? We're paying £5 million for failure.
Yeah. Again, kind of a bit like some clubs and their league positions, and sometimes has been the case. England some England people or the FA members or even some fans might go, "Well, you say that, but Southgate got us to that and this." It's like it's also a false position, really.
And I was one of those. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I know. you and you've frozen my end, I don't know. You're unfrozen. There you go. You're back.
I didn't freeze. I just actually stopped because I thought you were going to say something, so I stopped to let you speak. Sorry.
Yeah, right. No, it was my end you froze as well on top of that. But no, but when you really realistically think about it, if you go back and look at against all the teams they beat, that would be like Manchester City winning a group with. It'd be like them winning a group with Tottenham in it, Wrexham, Colchester, and Southend. You know what I mean? Not really too many teams to threaten them, and they might get a bit of an hiccup against Tottenham because they're a bit of a bogey side for them at times, aren't they? But you know what I mean, Chris? It'd be like saying to Man City, "You're not going to get out. You get out of this group if you can." And Man City going, "Well, we might come second if we have a bit of a hiccup against Tottenham, but are you seriously taking the piss?" Again, people will sit there and go, "Oh, well, we had Germany. That's the Tottenham. That's the reference I'm making." Someone who's weren't quite as good as what they used to be in there, but could have knocked us out all the way. And it could be the same with this tournament with Italy. But realistically, we haven't had a tough enough challenge to sit here and say, did we really get to a final or semi-final through taking on tough opposition? Again, beat what's in front of you, fair enough, but that's what you look at, don't you, at the end of the day?
Yeah, and it's like I could say, I was just looking, where are we here? Who we could get in our half, and it is literally Italy. We've got France in our half, but again, they've not hit the ground running yet. So actually, my Iceland delivery man have told me today, apparently, back in 1966, we were awful till we got to the final. I did reply to him that, well, we've been fucking awful ever since. So that doesn't work out very well. But no, let's get some comments in, and then I've got a very interesting topic to end on about this, because up until now, whilst I've not been Southgate's biggest fan, a bit like with Vestergaard, I don't think he's necessarily deserved the criticism that he's got, but I think now, yes, he does. Here from Craig, we aren't going to win anything bar a wooden spoon with Gareth in charge. Sack him now and appoint Carsley or Howe to give us a remote chance. I don't think you can sack. I mean, I know, was it Spain or somebody that sacked the manager mid-tournament?
Ivory Coast.
Well, all right, Spain, Ivory Coast, easily, mixed up. Carsley. Now, this came up on your show. I know it did on Up the Clarets in all departments. Do check it out. Good channel. Craig, yesterday. I haven't seen anything about Carsley. I think he's in the Gareth Southgate position as being assistant or somewhere down the line, like Gareth was before he took over. I don't think you can sack anybody now, though, can you, Craig, Brad?
I mean, could, but it'd be. I don't know, actually. I mean, I'd say it'd disrupt the group even more. They'd probably have somebody who would liven them up and take the reins a bit. I don't know, but no, you can't. Again, you can't realistically. If you're being perfectly honest, you can't do it.
Yeah,
you can't do it. It just doesn't work. It's never worked for any side that's done it.
No. I've got to say, I've just had a message, by the way, off Doug, and this is what I thought it was. He was in tomorrow's chat because it's going to be shared with his channel. And he was in sorting that up, which is why.
That makes sense. That makes more sense.
I didn't like to come out and say that was why, just in case it wasn't. But it's just, I went, you do know it's tomorrow night, don't you? He went, yeah, I was just in there setting up my own thing. Bloody green doors again. Gray says here, this set of England players are the best we've had for ages, and we have scored 2 goals. We've said this, haven't we? Like, we should, with this group of players, we should be doing better. We've got the best team on paper, but on the pitch is a different story. Look, Anthony, if World Cups and Euros were played on papers, we'd have won every single one. I think Craig, sometimes I do wonder what he drinks. Sven, Robson, Keegan would have all loved this team, and we're all astute managers, more astute managers than Gareth. Keegan?
Well, he'd love it if he could play with
Would,
this
yes.
with this team, couldn't he?
This is the man that walked away, and I was only watching it a few nights ago because I'm sad like that. I've not been able to sleep with this hot weather, and it's amazing where I delve on my YouTube rabbit holes, and not where anybody else is thinking either. But I was watching that when he resigned as England manager, which was straight after we lost to Germany at Wembley in the World Cup qualifications, literally before we went and beat them 5-1 under Sven. It just shows what a different manager coming in can do with the same group of players, doesn't it, Brad?
It does, although we have to remember also in them qualifiers, if we didn't score that free kick against Greece, we wouldn't have gone, would we? We would have had a difficult group, I believe.
Was that the same one? I get confused, but I'll give you that. It is very true. But like I say, going from losing to Germany under one manager with basically the same set of players, beating them 5-1 with a different manager.
Yeah.
But Keegan actually resigned after that Germany game, and he said, "I have taken this team as far as I can take it. I am falling short as the England manager. There is nothing more I can do with these sets of players. I can only go so far with enthusiasm and whatever. Somebody else better than me should take over and do better. And I think it's best that I go now, even though we had I think Harold Wilkinson took over as the manager. We actually had a 2 days when we played another qualifier. But Keegan said that. So I don't, sorry, Craig, love you to bits, but I don't think Keegan was an astute manager, was he?
I don't remember him being so. In fact, you'd probably say Hoddle was more astute than
yes.
Keegan, and that's saying something.
I mean, Keegan played Phil Neville at left back against Romania. He gave the penalty away, and we all came home early from those Euros.
Good times.
We were the best team not to win Euro 96. Yeah, but we didn't win it. There's no point being the best not to do something. You want to be the best and do it. Why does Southgate always play two central defensive midfielders? I think we know, don't we? Like we said before, he's just he's too cautious, you know. Southgate playing 4-2-3-1. This is a change from the last two campaigns. He always played 4-3-3. I could just say, look, and I'm going to say this, and I didn't agree with it at the time, but Enzo last season, I'm not saying this because I'm saying it because I'm a Leicester fan, so I know this happened, and you'll agree with me, hopefully, Brad. If not, I'm going to make myself look an idiot. But he was said, "This is the style I'm playing. If you don't like it, I'm off." But every time that team went on that pitch, they knew what was expected of them. All right, they didn't always do it. I grant you that. But they knew what was expected of them. They knew they didn't have to suddenly think too much. Yeah, he swapped an odd player here or there. But the actual system itself never changed from match week 1 to match week 48, whatever it was at the end, 38.
Yeah, it's true. And again, I don't think you need that robust arrogance that he has, that Enzo showed. But it worked, you know, it definitely worked. It definitely got the job done. But I think you do need to either be saying, I'm going to play this system this way. I need players that are 100% going to be wanting to and able to play this way. And if you're not there, there's the door, but you won't get into this England side. Which again can bite you on the arse with certain players. Or you've got to sit there and say, I'm going to look at all the players I've got available to me. I'm going to pick the best that I think is good for what I want to play and what I want to do. And then I'm then going to, play to this team's best strength. Because you can only do it one or two ways when it's international manager. That's all you can do, really. You can either pick your best 25 players and figure out a way in a system that best suits them all, or you pick 25 players that best suits your system and the way you're playing. There's no two ways about it.
Oh, I agree 100%. I've just started a comment here from Craig again, and I agree. Southgate taking an injured Shaw, ridiculous. Tony after a season which half was spent down the book is ridiculous. play everyone out of position, be ridiculous. League Two manager in charge of England. Again, look, we've had this before, haven't we? You're taking a player. He's taken Trippier, who's injured. Not Trippier, sorry, who's injured. Hasn't been fit for any of the first 3 games. What would have been the point of taking him if we hadn't got out the group?
Well, yeah, but we've always done this. It's like an England tradition.
Yeah.
We've had this tradition. It's like taking that Manu. Now, don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong, right? He looks good. But what's he really done for Manchester United? Played 10 games, 15 games? Whatever. Maybe a Man U fan's going to correct me. He's barely played football. He's barely out of nappies in his age, isn't he? Realistically, we just have this obsession of doing it. We have this obsession of taking a player for the sake of taking them. You know, ever since Owen, you know, maybe before Owen, you know, but we had like Rooney. We tried to take him with his and he knackered his metatarsal up, didn't he? But, you know, but Rooney's probably up there with Owen as a success. But then we've had Wilcots, we've had Welbecks, we've had Sturridges. We now have this Manu, who in years to come might be a good international football, but the guy's barely touched the grass. Excuse the euphemism in terms of club football, let alone international football. So why are we bringing him to it? This isn't like putting Braybook on the bench in a dead rubber in the European Conference, is it, Chris? You know, to get the experience. This is a major tournament for his international side.
But and do you not think if you're good enough, if you're good enough, you're old enough?
No. You can say that about club football, where there's the option to kind of go, oh, okay, well, we played and we got a draw, and he didn't actually play that great, but I can rest him now and train him back with the under-21s. Can't do that in international football. If he has a bad game and gives the ball away, or gives away the penalty, like what happened with Romania, he's going to get hounded. I mean, what happened to? All right, a less of an example, but poor, bad decision making. And I know you're going to say about the guy who he did it to, which is right before you say it, but the Beckham incident in '98.
Yeah.
Kicked out a player, and we all know Simeone was a dirty little rat for it. But that one decision haunted Beckham for years on end. For me, if you say to him, oh, well, he's done really well for 10, 11 games or whatever it is for Manchester United, and then put him in this tournament and he just can't, or makes a bad decision, like I said, and gives away a penalty or scores an own goal or has a terrible game, no, this is why you don't do this. You can't take someone who's had no international football. You can't do it. It's a different circuit. You can risk it maybe in league football, but you can't at international level.
Well, I didn't think I was ever going to say this, but I actually agree with Ash. Ash says, Brad, what? He's been great at United, out of a bad lot. That's why he's there. He's named Menu. Right, let me just say, Menu, he's 19 years old, yeah?
Yeah.
That's how old he is, according to Wikipedia. And we all know that it's absolutely spot on 100%. Wayne Rooney was 17 when he debuted for England. Jude Bellingham was 17 when he first played for England. Raheem Sterling was 17. Michael Owen, 18. I was going to say Mika Richard then, but that's probably not the best one to pick up. Sancho, Rashford. James Brown. Oh, I never knew he played football. Living in America. I'm sorry, got on one there. And, of course, the famous Luke Shaw as well. But they were all younger when they debuted for England.
Yeah, true, and some can be a success. And I'm not. As I say, it's just for me, it's a risk of his young reputation to put the pressure on him. Look, I'm only going off how I judge it.
Yeah,
saying seen him play, that's fair enough. And I'm not saying he's not a good youngster and not a talent, right? But just because you're a big blow up fish in a crap pond at Man United, like you said there, saying, No, that's his words, not mine. He said he's.
I don't think he actually quite put it like that. I know
Well,
where you're coming from. I do know where you're coming from.
Yeah. But just because he's doing that at Man United doesn't mean he's going to be like that in England. And unfortunately, I know them second nation. You know, they've got more points than Scotland. Sorry, dog. But no, that's my point. No, it's just that little bit too much of a risk for me. I would say, brilliant. You're in my plans. However, even though he's not had a brilliant season or not the best of best seasons, someone I could still have in this team who's a game changer, and I know he's a game changer, I'm going to take Grealish. Or someone else. I've just thrown out Grealish because he's probably the biggest surprise and name who didn't make it. But you know what I mean, Chris? Whereas I would say that was brilliant. You've had a great half a season or whatever it was at Man City. At Man U, sorry, I swore at you there saying I meant Man U. But go and keep doing that, and there's no way I don't take you to the next. There's no way you don't go to the World Cup.
Yeah. And Ash, I don't put just because you comment doesn't mean that I have to put your comment up. I do if it is relevant, and I go back. And the first comment I saw that you had put was that one about Man United. Now, I apologize, but you have put others, but don't come in and just say, well, I've commented, it should be put up. I don't put every comment up. It's up to me and whether it applies to the chat or not. This one actually does, that he said, if England win the Euro, Southgate will be knighted eventually and all this Southgate hate will be forgotten. Have some faith. If we don't win it, then he must go. This is what we're saying. We're not saying Saint. And unfortunately, this is the unfortunate thing of, well, being a Man United fan, you're always late to the parties, aren't you? But if you've been in from the, sorry, mate, if you'd been in from the start, it's exactly what we're saying. We are not dishing hate out, and we are saying at the end of the Euros, if he wins it, though, I said, did I not? That's right at the start, Brad. If we win it, we'll all forget how we've won it because of the fact that we've won it. But we do know, you know, will he be able to do it again? Not sure he will. You know, he peaked, I think, for Italy, and then we see. Yeah, yes, it was Saint, but it was further up the chat. There's a lot of people chatting. So, like I say, it isn't. You know, I'm sorry, sir. You know, you comment and you want to be mentioned. If it's relevant, it will be great. You are a gentleman, sir. Thank you so very, very much. And yes, well, you know, that was going to be my next question, and you've answered it here. I still don't want him at United. Oh, I'd love that. I'd do a Kevin Keegan. I'd love it, Brad. I'd love it if Southgate went to United. Pretty much, I mean, we've discussed it all out. Like I say, I was very much his look, give the guy a chance. I've always kind of backed him, but even after those three performances, can't back him. The only thing I'd say in his favour, do you remember Bobby Robson? Was it 82 World Cup? You might have been too young.
I wasn't even born then, so yes, I was so young.
Oh, fucking hell, I feel old. Ash will remind me whether it was the 82 World Cup or not, with Lineker and Gascoigne. Cheers, Gray. And basically, 86. Thank you so very much. Thank you, Saint. I know he knows everything, Saint. He's a very, very knowledgeable man. We were struggling in that World Cup under Bobby Robson. We got through to the semis, but we were struggling, and it was only allegedly because the players went to Brian Robson, a bit like, you know, with Vardy and his team talk, and he actually started to change things around. Oh, 1990. Yeah, sorry, that is actually, how can I forget 1990? The players went to him and said, right, we need to do something. Had a chat, talked things through, and then suddenly, we go and get a hat trick. Well, Lineker gets a hat trick against Poland. So it is possible to turn it round. And yes, it was 1990. Thank you very much. I thought this was David Icke. I was thinking, my God, who's in here? But it's David Clarke. No coaching world football has had a lucky route through to a tournament. In the last 3 competitions, and Southgate still can't win a trophy. He didn't even have the CV to become an international coach. But like I say, his record is not the worst, and we showed that earlier, didn't we, Brad? His record is not the worst, but I just think it's time now, at the end of this tournament, or December when his contract is up, it's time to go.
True.
I get confused. Honestly, saying I'm getting confused. I'm confusing myself here, and that's not hard to do. But at least I went in the right chat at the start, Brad. Anyway, I'm going to wait with this one. Sorry, mate. Let's say Southgate goes. Should the next England manager be English? We've toyed with foreign managers. We've paid them a lot of money. Sven kind of worked out. Capello, although he got the best win percentage of any England manager ever, was awful. Let's be honest with you. Does the next manager have to be English?
Have to be English? No. I just want him to have some form of either international experience or very successful club level experience. And before anyone says anything, I'm not saying anybody like Alonso, who's the Bayer Leverkusen manager. I'm talking somebody who's either had a long-term standing success on the league circuit, or someone who's had a fair bit of success on the international circuit. Something's got to be different about it, and but it's going to be Potter. It's going to be Potter. It's so annoying. But I personally, I want somebody who's had that experience elsewhere. Can it be English? I've seen Eddie Howe mentioned a few times in chat. Possibly, yeah. Someone like that. Good chance of it. Does it have to be? No, not for me. Doesn't have to be.
You see, to me, I want him to be English. And don't get me wrong, I love Sven. I've got a signed picture up on my wall here. He's obviously Leicester manager, lovely guy, and we wish him all the best in his health. And I've got to say, fair play to David Beckham, who actually went out to see Sven, obviously, who's very, very ill. And he didn't have to do that, and that was lovely. So well done, Bex, and all the best, Sven. I just think a national manager, if we can't get in this country a manager that's English to manage our national team, something is wrong. I kind of get it with the Ivory Coast or South Korea or one of those. But surely our manager, whether it's David Howe, whether it's Potter, and Potter's no different to Southgate because he's won nothing. He's done nothing that's any thing. So we'd just have another Southgate, I think. But surely for England, it has to be an England manager, and being a good league manager, does that give you the qualifications to be a good international manager?
Again, yeah, I understand that it's that it doesn't necessarily mean good league manager, good international manager, but then you look at the success of some managers that have taken that route and how well it's done for them. It's transitioned into being quite successful. I think also a little bit the reason I'm more leaning on the good club manager side is the pool of pure international managers doesn't really exist anymore, do they? They're not really, you used to have out and out international managers that had spent the majority of their career as England managers.
I'm not laughing at you. I'm laughing at that comment from Ash. Sorry.
I mean, he's not wrong.
He's not wrong, no.
But yeah, my thing is, I think he just needs to be experienced one way or another, whether that's on the international circuit or as and I say successful because he needs to be long-term success. He can't be an Alonso at Bayern Munich success. To throw out the idea in a little bit less of a jest of a way, a Pep Guardiola after Man City. I don't think there's anybody out here that wouldn't say that Pep Guardiola, given the talent of the squad that England had, couldn't get the best out of this
But would
England
you
side.
want it? The guy's he's Spanish, isn't he? I mean, why would you want to manage England? Surely
I'm not
in his
saying he
team.
would, but you're asking me, the question is, can a manager
No,
be successful
I
in league?
accept that. I was just batting it back
Yeah,
at you, but
yeah.
no,
Would
good
he
point.
want
Yeah,
to? Probably not. He probably want to tarnish his reputation because he can't buy all the talent to win a trophy as he can at Bayern Munich, Barcelona,
true.
Man City. But if you want to flip that, what he does with teams that have all the talent ready there, and England do have the talent ready there, is he does breed success. So would somebody like Pep Guardiola potentially be a successful? I think he would, but it'd have to be that sort of caliber of manager for me to take over the role after Southgate.
Fine. I mean, I see I do see what you're saying. Klopp has just been mentioned. Pochettino. I mean, we couldn't have an Argentinian manager of the England team, and surely we couldn't have a German manager of the England team. I get Sven, I get Capello, but German or Italian managers of the England team, Brad, help me here. No. It's just wrong on it's like a fart in a lift. Wrong on so many levels.
It is, but here's one for you that might sting a little bit to potentially agree with, or you'll kick me out of the studio for saying it. Alex Ferguson. He was nearly England manager. He was approached for the job and he was willing to take it. Would you have taken him? Would you have taken Arsene Wenger in his prime? Mid-2000s Arsene Wenger when he was winning things with Arsenal? I'm just saying, Chris, that French, sometimes you gotta bite your lip and take it on the chin and look at how they're successfully managing.
I hate you. I really do.
What do you do, mate?
Ash, I'm going to use Ash here because Ash said earlier. I didn't think I'd ever go back to Ash as a backup to me, because he did say, whilst he did say yes, always English, he did say or even Scottish. At least he's British. We could have Brendan. Look, hindsight's a wonderful thing, and obviously with Fergie. But look, oops. was that at the Scottish point you left
That was
there?
the Brendan point. You just want to get seal bars back on the advertisement, don't you? That's why you want Brendan in.
My earning potential has gone down now. I don't get sponsored by seal bars. But excuse me, Cooper. I should just said Cooper. If he keeps you up, he's Welsh. But Cooper's won a fucking World Cup. I'll tell you that much. So, and he's good with kids. That sounds wrong.
Oh, we don't need to say that. We don't need to say that.
No, he's good with kids, as in kids football teams, because he won the World Cup with the England under-17s. So, look, again, it's like any manager, whoever we pick, not 100% of us are going to be happy.
No, that's true. And like I said, you could pick some of the managers that we'd want, like I said, with Guardiola, and we still wouldn't be. There'd be people that aren't happy about it. So it is what it is. We just want exciting football back. That's what we want. I mean, because let's face it, Chris, if we'd have sat here and let's say the scorelines don't change, but if we'd have been sat watching them games going, fuck me, Jan Oblak's had the game of his life. He saved 8 shots, and we've had a hit the bar, hit the post, house ended a 0-0 and done that. It's just, you know what I mean? It's just how it looks to you as a viewer, doesn't it? Because, but we haven't been, and I think that's the most disappointing thing here. You got 5 points, played exciting football, and Saturday going, oh, man, can't hit a barn over banjo. It's just out of luck. we wouldn't be so miserable and a bit annoyed at Southgate for it. But it is what it is, mate. Something needs to kick into life. Who knows, Chris? 4 weeks' time, whatever it is, when the final comes around, we could be barking up a different tree, couldn't we? We only know. We'll only know when we know.
As we said, if he goes out and win the thing, I don't think I can actually even then say I'd want him to stay. I just hope at least he'd bow out on a high note. But
that's very true.
But I think we all agreed that no, he's not going to go join the tournament. That's never going to happen in a month of Sundays, and it shouldn't do, because I think that's the worst thing that could happen. But I think what we're all agreed that at the end of the tournament or December, I'm talking to German managers. Of course, Scotland did try that with Bertie Voigt, didn't they? How did that go for them? How did that go for them? Not very well, I don't believe. I did. I was talking to Doug a couple of nights ago on a show, and he said, no, he's not. The next manager's not going to be English at all. And I went, oh, they're like you had Bertie Voigt with Scotland. He went, yeah, fair point. But yeah, look, well, look, we're not going to be happy. But I think we're all agreed in here that his time is up. Coming number one, your time is up. And we need to move on because.
And sorry, just quickly, if the next England manager is not British of any kind, and they're ever needing words of wisdom on the internet, right? To any potential foreign manager of the future of that manages England, don't ban ketchup. But if you don't know why, that's what Capello did. Capello banned ketchup and salt from the canteen and wouldn't let the players use any flavouring. So there's your lesson. You've been warned by the wisdom here at LTID TV.
It was probably needed. Didn't he follow the Wally with the Brolly?
I believe so, yes.
I mean, I know we probably needed some discipline, but, that was a little bit too far.
Yeah, maybe get them to do an extra 10 minutes on the treadmill. Don't take away the ketchup, mate. Come on.
But it said again...
How to bring down British morale. Eh?
I know. Exactly. But yeah, look, whoever it's going to be, whatever happens, we're not going to please everybody, but we'll see. Brad, thank you so very much for coming on, mate. You need to go put another little mouse on the treadmill. Your electricity's gone. But I will see you soon, no doubt. I do appreciate it. Give everybody a shout out where they can find you.
Find me on Twitter at Full-Time Focus. I won't call it X because it's just silly. You can find me on here all the time and on LTID TV 2, where once it gets all underway and I can show ideas out and whatnot, there will be football quizzes, Leicester quizzes, and Leicester City women's content. So if you haven't already, please bear with me and be patient. I'm in transition. There's probably a joke Chris could come out with that. But it is a channel that still exists, and we'll have videos back on it next season. I promise you. I
loved your films, by the way.
I'm sure you
did. Thanks very much, Brad. Take care, buddy, and I will see you soon.
See you soon,
mate. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Oh, there we go. Thanks a lot to Brad. Right, what's coming up? Well, funny you should ask me what's coming up, because I'll tell you what's coming up next.
Coming up next on Leicester Till I Die TV.
We're back tomorrow night at 7 o'clock before the round of 16s kick off on Saturday. We will be doing a Euro 2024 group stage review. Not a preview, a review. There'll be myself and there will be Doug from the Dugout Football Channel. We'll be looking back at all the groups and the highlights and the lowlights. And there was more lowlights than highlights. I haven't seen a game yet in this competition that's really, really, really got me excited. Maybe I'm watching the wrong channels. Looking at our group predictions here. Yeah, we didn't do very well, me and Doug. We didn't even get to 50%. 33%, I think one of us got to. 7 o'clock tomorrow, we'll be doing that before we're doing the watch along for the England-Slovakia game on Sunday afternoon. Thanks to everybody that's been in the chat. Thanks to everybody, Ash, for correcting me, Gray for his kind donation. Everybody else, if you haven't done yet, please do like and subscribe. It really does help the channel. There we go. If you can do that, please. Smash the likes. That helps the channel as well. If you've been listening via your favourite podcast platform, thank you for lending me your ears. I will see you tomorrow night, 7 o'clock with Doug. Take care. Have a good evening. Good night now.
Thanks for watching. These videos are tremendous. You better like them too, or I'll be back.
This podcast is proud to be part of the TalkSport Fan Network. TalkSport. Powered by fans.
That will conclude this evening's entertainment.